Hey, welcome to Creative Canva Collaborations. My name is Misty and I've been teaching for 20 years. I'm a science teacher. I have 2 kids and my husband is also a teacher. I am a teacher Canvassador and I love showing people how to use Canva and showing new ideas, new projects that you can do. And so that's what I'm going to do here today. I'm going to show you ways that you can do collaborations between students, students and teachers, teachers and teachers, and teachers and parents. We all know that collaboration is important. It helps students strengthen their understanding, develop real-world skills, prepares them for future success because you know they're going to have to work with people in the real world and probably at least a few people that they don't want to or don't like. So this helps them to get ready for those sorts of things. It encourages creative thinking and makes learning more engaging and interactive, and it also helps them to build their digital confidence and their tech skills. First, I'm going to show you some student-to-student collaborations. Some ways that students can work together are to create presentations together. They can split up a topic, collaborate in real time. That way they can work together and support each other, and it's not all one student having to do everything. An example would be a biome project where each student is given a different aspect for a biome and they work together to create one cohesive presentation. Another thing that students can do is to create digital storybooks. They could rewrite fairy tales and use custom illustrations. An example would be making a modern twist on Little Red Riding Hood. Another thing that they can do together is to create infographics. Instead of students creating essays or doing a project all by themselves, they can work together, split up the research information, and create one infographic. An example would be doing an infographic on ancient civilizations. So one student would cover the government, another student would cover daily life, and so forth. A few more ideas to try would be letting students give feedback on posters or artwork. They can use Canva's comment tool for critiques. Students can also create collaborative timelines. So they would map out key events in literature or in history and work together to put all the important events on one timeline together. Another idea would be to create virtual vision boards. Students can set goals and they can share those goals with each other, and then that way they can help hold each other accountable for reaching those goals. One example of a co-created presentation is one that my students did in their anatomy class, and they were given a set of specialized cells. They were allowed to choose their groups, split up the information however they saw fit, and each person in the group was responsible for creating different slides on different cell types. They were to find the definition and the function for each cell and put it all together in one cohesive presentation. Next, I'm going to show you some teacher-to-teacher collaborations. Teachers can work together to create shared lesson plans. For example, grade level teachers could work together to create a lesson plan template and fill in the information for their subject or the activity that they want to share that week. All the teachers would be able to use the activities and they could stay on the same page, and especially helpful for newer teachers. Another thing that teachers can do is to create interdisciplinary unit projects. This would be like a science teacher and an English teacher teaming up for a space exploration unit. The science teacher could get their students to create an infographic about Mars or other planets, and the English teacher could get their students to write persuasive astronaut speeches. They can combine these two projects and send them to both teachers. Another thing that teachers can do together using Canva is school event planning. When it's time for homecoming or prom, teachers can work together to share ideas. They can create posters, invitations. They can create all their social media images and even the event decor. Not only could this save them a little bit of money, it could be fun and interactive for the teachers to work together to create something that is truly their own. Another thing that teachers can do together is to create professional development resources. After a professional development session, most teachers come back and share that information with their co-teachers or with the entire faculty. And using Canva would be a good way to do that. They could include key takeaways, best practices, and useful resources in a slide deck, and even include things like polls and quizzes to make it a little more interactive and get the rest of the teachers involved in learning what they learned from their professional development session. Other ways that teachers can work together is to create shared resource libraries. They can create visual curriculum maps, and they could create things like a lab usage calendar. This is something that my fellow teachers have worked together to create. This is a lab calendar, and each teacher would have a different sticky note, and they would be able to place that sticky note on the day that they wanted to use the calendar. They could also include things like cleaning the lab and ordering supplies. This is just a whiteboard design, and I created a QR code so that my teachers could scan it and they would have access to be able to edit, and we could work together to make sure everyone was able to use the lab on the day that they wanted to. The next collaborations I want to share with you are teacher to parent collaborations. Some ways that teachers can work together with the parents of their students is to create things like classroom newsletters, student portfolios, volunteer and event sign-up sheets, parent resource guides, and celebration and recognition boards. For classroom newsletters, teachers and parents can co-create a monthly newsletter with updates, volunteer opportunities, and student spotlights. Canva makes it really easy to do that because there are thousands of templates to choose from that could help you get it started, and you wouldn't have to worry about design processes. Another thing is student portfolios. This is an example of a student portfolio, or the beginning of a student portfolio for an environmental science notebook. Students would be able to embed their activities in the spaces, and they could show off their best work, or they could create just a place to keep everything together so that when it was time to study for a test, they would be able to find all of their information in one place. For volunteer and event sign-up sheets, again, there are a ton of sign-up sheets already designed for you, and you can use any of these templates and customize them for whatever your event is. For parent resource guides, there are a ton of templates that you can share with parents to help them continue the learning at home with their child. And the last one is celebration and recognition boards. Again, I wanted to share some templates with you so that you could see all the ways that you could celebrate your students. These are different certificates, and you could create a presentation with all the students in it, why they were chosen for their award, and to celebrate each child individually. Lastly, I'm going to share with you some teacher to student collaborations. Teachers can create interactive bell ringers and exit tickets for their students. Students can submit their assignments in Canva. The teacher can open that assignment, add comments, add stickers, or even make notes for corrections. And they could ask students to respond directly in Canva. So you could continue to send one design back and forth between teacher and student and end up with a whole log of their exit tickets and their bell ringers to kind of show the growth and what they've learned over time. Another thing that you can do is to create personalized learning journals. Students can use Canva to create their digital journal or create lab reports. They can include written reflections, they can add graphs, and they can even put interactive elements and create links to videos or information that they have found outside of Canva. Teachers can create an interactive whole class lesson. They can share a link to a whiteboard design and give students instructions to follow to conduct research, share their findings with the class, and put all of it into one Canva design. Students can work together with the teacher at the beginning of the school year to create class rules, and the teacher could share a link to the students to contribute ideas for the class rules. Students could add their thoughts, vote on their ideas, and comment on suggestions, and then the teacher could put everything together and create one poster. Another thing that students can do is to have customizable study guides. So teachers could provide a fill-in-the-blank study guide template in Canva. Students could go in, type in their notes, add visuals and diagrams or images, label things to help to reinforce that learning. I'm going to show you some examples of these. An example of a bell ringer or exit ticket activity that you could share with your students is just sending them a Canva doc. Give them instructions on how to answer the bell ringer and the questions that you want them to answer. And you can also put bell ringers and exit tickets on the same document. This is one that I use with my students, and the question that they had for their exit ticket was to tell me how they felt about their upcoming quiz. And then I was able to respond to them and send them a bit of encouragement. An example of a lab report was one that I did with my anatomy students, and I created the template for them to follow. They were able to add images of what they saw on the microscope. This helps them to be able to see the image instead of just having to draw what they saw on the microscope slide and lose some of the information in the drawing process. The students were able to drag and drop the names of the layers of the skin so that they could see exactly where they were on their slide image. They were able to get up close and personal with even their own hair and label the parts that they could find. They could drag and drop the parts of the skin so that they could label the diagram. And then they were given an experiment to do and create a hypothesis, work through the experiment, and then share their results. An example of a whole class lesson using a Canva whiteboard was one that I did with my environmental students on the effects of oil spills on different organisms. So I gave a link to my students so they could join the whiteboard and everyone would work together. Each student was able to choose an organism from this list that I provided for them. They were given the instruction to choose an organism, place it on a sticky note, delete the name of that organism from the list. That way I had a variety of organisms represented and no one was doing the same thing. So they copied and pasted their sticky note into this section that I created for them. That way everyone knew who was researching which organism. Then they were given instructions to research a little bit about their organism and how they would be affected by oil spills. So they had to give information about how the bodies would be harmed, how the habitats would be harmed, and how that would affect the overall food chain. So each student put their information on sticky notes and placed them in the correct column. Now from here, it was really fun to use the Canva AI and create a summary of all the information and then create a presentation from that so that we could share everybody's findings with the entire class. There are a ton of templates for class rules posters that after you were able to get your students input on class rules, you could go into Canva, find a template to use, and just plug in the information that you gathered from your students. This is an example of a customizable notes page. So students would be given this in Canva. They could type in their notes. They could label diagrams or images. They could add in review questions that they came up with from the lecture or from however they received the information, and then come up with a little bit of a summary for their lesson. This would be able to help them gather all their information in one place. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. If you're ready to collaborate, then I would invite you to follow me on Facebook. I also would love to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, where I will be continuing to share more and more Canva tips and tutorials. You can also sign up for my weekly newsletter, and when you do, you will get a free copy of my student-driven creativity, which includes 20 student project ideas that you can create with your students using Canva. Just remember, collaboration makes learning more interactive and engaging, and Canva allows for real-time feedback, easy sharing, and creative projects. So start small. Pick one of these collaboration projects to try out this month. I would love for you to share what you come up with. Thanks, and see you next time.